Good morning, everybody. This is Rocken Larry Locken with Pleiadian Express Productions, and I'm here with Pleiadian Talk today. Today with me I have Zureida Garda. She's the admin of Pleiadian South Africa on Facebook, and today we're going to talk about starseed loneliness and what it's like to grow up feeling like you're alone on an island and feel like you're separated from the rest of your star family. And we'll go into the anxiety issues and things like that that it causes. So Zoraida, welcome. How are you doing, Miss Garda, this morning? How is everything, I guess it would be this evening in South Africa? How are you?
Hi. It's greetings from South Africa. It's sunny afternoon over here. I think there's about a 9-hour time difference between you and I, Larry. So you're in like
Yes,
the
it's
middle of the night.
5:47.
Oh,
I'm kind of in the
early
middle of the
morning.
night, early morning. It's 5:47 a.m. here on the Oregon coast, and it's cloudy and cold out right now. And maybe as the day goes on, Alcyone will break through and it'll get a little bit warmer. But I'm glad to have you here on the show, and I know that, this is a topic that is near and dear to most of our hearts, the loneliness factor of being a starseed and what it's like growing up, feeling like you're alone, have nobody with you, and just feeling a little bit different from the rest of your family. And I think we've went over some of that stuff before. I've certainly talked about it in other broadcasts. But, it just seems to be something that's really on a lot of our minds lately, that loneliness, that separation, feeling like they're alone. And I know that I certainly hear it on a daily basis from a lot of the people that I talk to. So, I'm glad that we're discussing this topic. And I know in the pre-show we discussed some of the issues that, you had with feeling that separation and that I certainly had. And yeah, and I know that in your line of work, you deal with a lot of mental issues. And and I just wanted to know if you see that, do you see that in other people, or is it something that just you yourself have experienced?
Yeah, Larry, definitely find I experience it in my practice and my work. I think a lot of us as human incarnate people, there are many of us that are suffering from things like depression and anxiety and feeling kind of disconnected from others. And I think it's the nature of kind of living in the third dimensional world that we're living in at the moment, predominantly. So that it is a very predominant experience for a lot of people. But I definitely have noticed as I've been kind of getting to know other, fellow starseeds and myself and talking to you and others, that there's an interesting added dimension to it with being a starseed, because there's the added component of being so far away from home. And I think as little kids, as you were saying, Larry, we felt so different. We felt so foreign. And to be honest, when I look back in my own childhood, alien, absolutely, to the kind of world environment, to the family environment, and that kind of thing.
Well, definitely you are an alien, supernatural, extraterrestrial. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think that it was a good idea, these groups getting started, and Facebook has certainly been a lifesaver as much as I like to complain about it. It's really helped me a lot in meeting all these people and getting the feel that everybody's gone through the same thing. But, I think now we're hitting like phase 2 of that. We're all in this kind of loneliness phase again where, okay, it's like we've met each other, we've talked to each other in these groups, and it's like now we're trying to figure out a way to manifest people to be closer to each other and be around each other more. And I'm hoping that someday the technology comes along for maybe interdimensional quick travel so people can do that. Or maybe there's a wild card that we're not thinking about. Maybe something will come along, that will help us to get more acquainted with each other in this 3D realm instead of waiting and, having this illusion that a spaceship's going to pick us all up and we're going to meet like that. I just hope that it happens on a 3D level more. And that's why I know that Jason Wilson and I, another admin with me in Leah Shapiro's Pleiadians group, has suggested a Pleiadian Woodstock, which I made a page for. But even still, it's like we feel so alone and disconnected still, even though we've got each other in these groups and it's fine and everything. But I just feel like I would like to start meeting some of these people face to face. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think, it's part of the human condition to search for connection. But more than just connection, it's connection of, it's more than just sort of like meeting somebody, having a coffee. It's about really getting each other, really understanding each other, really feeling like you speak the same language, you feel the same kinds of feelings, have similar kinds of experiences. And yes, for me as well, it's helped tremendously to find some of the groups and meet some of the people. But it does still have, it's a little bit more real in inverted commas than when it's all just been in our imaginations, this idea of meeting others that are like-minded. And at least, like you say, thanks, the times when Facebook can be Gracebook as opposed to Fakebook, as you like to call it.
Yeah. Or another four-letter word, which we won't go into,
yeah,
but yeah.
We won't go into.
Yeah.
But definitely, meeting people in some of the groups has been a tremendous solace for me, and I know for others. I was actually just finding it so interesting, when you recently created the Pleiadian Twin Flame Soul Group for people to maybe begin finding each other there. And it's been interesting to see how busy that group's gotten so quickly, and how much people are kind of, in a way, it's symbolic of what you're talking about today, about that need to deepen the connection. Like, it's really great to meet people on Facebook, but it's about the longing for a deeper level of connection. Whether it be, and not necessarily only in a romantic kind of, scenario, but to be able to meet each other, to be able to sit and have long conversations, to, give each other hugs and kind of feel each other in a more third dimensional way. And absolutely, we need to remember that we are multi-dimensional beings and begin working on teleporting to visit each other.
Teleportation, Nikola Tesla style.
Yeah.
Beam me up, Scotty. Beam me up. Actually, funny thing is, apparently through the whole history of that show, he never actually said "Beam me up, Scotty." He never said those words, or Captain Kirk, never actually said those words, "Beam me up, Scotty." It was like, "Scotty, prepare to beam," or whatever. But like you were talking about the Pleiadian Twin Soul Flames United group that I created, and I had mentioned a few times on Facebook before that I had done a couple shows on twin flames, and it was actually my least interested from my standpoint, show to do, and very hard for me to stay entranced and enthralled in that subject, because to me it's an issue that, well, it just isn't my favorite subject to talk about. But I think something has drawn me more to start talking about that issue. And then just, the other night through consciousness, I got the idea, and I mentioned it in the Pleiadian admins private chat group I'd mentioned created, and asked for a few admins to help with it, and the response was so overwhelming and just brought warmth to my heart that I had to do it. And I'm really glad that I did, and I think it was all for a reason. So I'm really glad that it's there, and maybe this followed by another step and another step will bring it closer to manifesting those looking for whatever it is they're looking for. There's a million different issues with the twin flame, and a million different variations of what people think that it is. Personally, I think it's oneness with each other and with yourself, ultimately at the end of the day. But it certainly would be nice for everybody to find that partner that they can have with them here on the 3D journey, and do that thing with. And whether it's from a romantic level, a sexual level, whatever it is that somebody might be looking for. I know with me, it would just be nice to have a companion to be able to talk with and to be able to bounce ideas off, which, there's a lot of people like that on the groups, but it would be nice to have somebody with you in 3D that could do that. And I think that contributes to the loneliness factor of not having somebody like that. And then maybe it's an issue, too, of us just getting right with ourselves before that can manifest. And maybe we're in that stage right now of people realizing to take a little inventory and, get things right with themselves and go from there,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something, it's definitely been a big theme that's been coming up in the last few months, even in my therapy practice, that, the primary relationship that we all need to grow and develop is the one with ourselves. And some of the work that I do with some of my clients and with myself is, to kind of find the ways to fall in love with yourself, find the ways to, kind of have a love affair with yourself. And I say
Yes.
that tongue in cheek, but very honestly as well. Because I think when we start realizing that we can fulfill our own needs, we then are in a place where we begin transmuting some of the, third dimensional karmic, for whatever way you want to describe it, patterns and histories, that may have come with us through our lifetimes up to now. And when we start developing and healing those through the relationship with ourselves, where we can, properly, deeply learn to love ourselves and appreciate and be thankful for ourselves, we begin to be able to attract the right kind of partners. Because I think for a lot of people, and from people that I've spoken to in the groups and that, there've been so many, examples of relationships, love relationships that haven't worked out because your issues are being triggered, or your patterns, or sometimes you're trying to have, for want of a better way of describing it, you're trying to have, I know we're all humans, but we're sort of alien humans, and when you're trying to have relationships with very 3D people that are still maybe a little bit further on a different path, maybe towards the awakening, it can be very traumatic and very disheartening and very devastating for a lot of us. And that kind of leads me to just another point that I wanted to mention is there seems to be, from the work that I've been doing and listening to people, quite a high correlation between being Pleiadian or, starseed, let's just say more broadly, starseed, and being empathic or being empaths, and also being, what is termed here highly sensitive persons, which is now being considered, formally a personality type. And that means that we are more sensitive, more caring, more empathic, more compassionate. And it's quite difficult to live in a world where we've created the idea that being tough and being unemotional and, an overemphasis on the rational and the logical to the exclusion of the emotional, and also to kind of not allowing the emotional and repressing or denying it. It's very difficult when you're a sensitive little soul that has quite a thin skin as a result, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
quite,
I do all too well.
Okay, good. It's quite difficult to then be living in this third dimensional existence. And this comes back to our comment about, being young kids, because you're kind of born with that sensibility, and then you arrive and the world is so harsh. And it's something that I've kind of experienced quite a lot as well, which I'm sure you have, Larry, is that the world feels so crushingly harsh and cruel and angry and difficult to be in. The contrast from what, and I know this is something that I've realized is, and it kind of comes back to also the twin flame thing a little bit, but I'll get to that, is that we know what home feels like, and home is this beautiful high vibrational space where we communicate telepathically, and we don't worry about things like money. We exchange energy, and we do healing, and we communicate on these higher vibrational levels and higher frequencies, and we it's this feels like this far more magical, sometimes even unimaginable place. But in our hearts, in our deepest hearts, we know that that's what home is about, that it's about love and respect and compassion and kindness. And when you as much as we've chosen to come to help Gaia at this point, when we're born and we've forgotten and we're little kids, and for a lot of us for most of our lives, we don't remember, all we feel is the utter contrast and loneliness and devastation of the separation from that feeling of home. And I think that's where the feelings of intense kind of existential depression come from, and high levels of anxiety, because you do feel, and you are literally an alien on this third dimensional plane that we're on at the moment. And it can be incredibly difficult and devastating to experience. And wanting to then, I think partly just to come to the twin flame comment that you had made, is that part of wanting to find that partner is about wanting to connect with that feeling again, that feeling of oneness, that feeling of, you made a comment on the twin flame group about, can you imagine what it would feel like to connect with another being so unconditionally, so non-judgmentally, so compassionately, and almost merge in energy, and feel the ecstasy of that merging. And I think that's what we're all longing for. So that was a
Yeah,
long.
no, I do know I do exactly, and just that feeling of, I think that's at the point in my life where I'm at right now, is I look at that bonding like that, like merging as a oneness with somebody where it's all knowing, pure truth, no lies, no deception, no drama. Well, as little drama as possible, here in 3D world, that's going to happen a little bit. But the thing is, it's like, okay, well, there's no reason to lie, or there's no reason to put on a phony facade when there's no judgment. There's no pressure. It's just pure oneness with each other and making that connection with somebody. And maybe that right there is the first step when you make that connection with another soul. And the more people develop that unity consciousness, then maybe that transmutes eventually into a collective consciousness. And eventually that brings us towards oneness through the source in higher dimensions up the line. So yeah, I agree. And have you found that, like, and I know a lot of starseeds have found this in relationships they've been in their life, have you found that, the other person, when it comes to arguing or splitting up or breaking up or whatever, really has the advantage because they don't see things on that unconditional love level like we do, and that hurt level? We get hurt so easy, and we can't, even if we've done some things wrong, we look at it like, well, I would love that person unconditionally, and I would forgive them for just about anything they could possibly do. And you feel like, it's like, gosh, it's almost like we're getting a raw deal out of the situation, but it hurts. And you touched on another thing too, longing for home, longing for somewhere where there are no lies. There is no such thing as money. Everything's like on an energy barter system per se, not even a barter system. Everything just is. Everything just flows through each other because it's oneness as a collective. And I think that most of us starseeds would really like a situation like that, but yet we're hurt, we're jaded by our past, by past relationships. And then I think one thing, though, to look at it on a positive note, these groups and talking about these things helps us all to realize that we're not alone, and that there are other people out there like that feel that way, and that feel like, okay, hey, why can't I get that kind of unconditional love back, and not be judged on petty little things and just stupid little shit like that really doesn't matter at the end of the day. And also, it just would be really, really nice for all of us to be closer together, because it seems like too, and I've mentioned this 1,000,001 times, that we're also spread out. Our light, our high vibration and our light just must be so bright that, okay, we're spread out like we are. I mean, I've got, another person that's of like mind like me, who I've interviewed a few other times on here, Thomas Ray. He's in the same state of Oregon I am, but he's still another 4-hour drive. He's a 4-hour drive from me. And that's the closest person that I've met in these groups. Everything's so spread out. I mean, it just seems like, okay, like you're in South Africa. I know people in Scandinavia, Europe, well, all over Europe, Central Europe, Germany, Italy, and on and on and on, Canada, South America, New Zealand, Australia, Asia, and it never ends, and it just seems like we're spread out so far,
Well, I think we obviously must have chosen to come so far spread out because we need to spread the light as light workers as far across the globe as we can, which is great from that perspective, but difficult when you're trying to connect with each other to kind of find each other and bolster our sense of connectedness. So it is a bit more challenging that we're so spread out.
Yeah, it certainly is. It kind of sucks sometimes, but I realize that we're here on a mission, and we're here to do what we need to do and things of that nature. It's just that, I just basically wanted to come on air today and tell everybody that, we love them and we really appreciate the love they show back, and, get them to understand that, hey, we're here, we're here, they're there, we're all one. But yes, it would be really nice, and I can definitely empathize. It would be nice to be able to meet even just a few of these people at a time, or one person at a time, it would be really lovely to be able to meet them in 3D and have that experience, give them a big hug, say, hey, how are you? And I just know that when and if that happened, the connection would just pick up and accelerate from the connection too that we have with those people here on Facebook, because you would know right away in your innate that you're amongst family, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely agreeing with you. I think, I just wanted to pick up on that point and something else you just mentioned earlier about they kind of relate to each other, but the question of when you've been in relationships that are where you come from the position of unconditional love, and you find it maybe, we all are human incarnate, so we will be angry and say things and whatnot. But generally speaking, when I speak to a lot of other fellow empaths, we tend to be far more careful about the words we use. We tend to be able to hold that unconditional love for others, which they may not be able to for us. And that is a very jarring, contrasting, confronting experience to have. And then because we're such sensitives, I remember when I first went to read in 5D about the different starseed, origins, and when I read about the Pleiades, I remember just laughing because it was like something about, you're very sensitive. You're often criticized for being oversensitive and over-emotional, and Pleiadians need to cry to release a lot. And I was like, tick, 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 and laughing. Cause
check on that, and so forth down the line. No, I agree.
Yeah. And I've been very, often throughout my life criticized by people for being too sensitive and crying and blaming myself for a long time. And I'm sure a lot of others will resonate with this feeling like you're an idiot and you're pathetic because you're so soft and you're so sensitive and you should be stronger and more robust and all of these things. And it took me a long time. It's how I ended up changing careers to becoming a psychologist. Is I started moving away from seeing those as my weaknesses and my deficits, so to speak, and seeing them as my strengths. And of course, as I tune into my emotionality, is where my strong empathy and clairsentience, or that ability to feel with others, that comes out, and that's what makes me, able to be a therapist, because I'm able to connect in that way. So just to comment on that point that you'd made, Larry, but then also just to say, I think maybe what we're needing to do through the groups and through the conversations that we have in the groups, in the chat rooms and that kind of thing, is to begin demonstrating these relationships with each other, even if they are online for now, where we are able to be vulnerable and sensitive and soft, and at times, angry with ourselves or hating ourselves, and to know that you're held, or that we hold each other in our Pleiadian consciousness, which is that of unconditional love and compassion, so that we, can begin to learn to feel safer in our vulnerability and allow that vulnerability to become our strength. And I think that is, maybe that's, like you said, it's up to now, it's been a bit about just finding each other and connecting, and now it's kind of, okay, but we need a next step. And yes, we definitely would like the 3D level meeting of each other in physical form, but maybe on the way to that, what I was just feeling quite strongly is that as we begin communicating on these groups, as we begin communicating, on shows and talks and that kind of thing, we really make a conscious effort to connect with our Pleiadian consciousness and communicate with each other within a very loving and unconditionally loving, kind, supportive way. And I think that might be the next part of the next step in the journey towards, finding each other even more strongly in third dimension.
Yeah, exactly. I think that really resonates with me too, what you just said, and I think maybe that's the phase we're kind of in right now. We've gone through this adjustment phase where, okay, we're all in tune with each other in these groups, and exactly, we're kind of moving through that phase right now. And something that's helped me too a lot in understanding past relationships and issues I've had is that I realized that it's not that other person's fault per se. They're not doing that intentionally. They just don't get it on the higher vibrational level like we do. They don't understand that unconditional love where they're coming from. It's kind of like, I liken it to a PhD dealing with somebody in grade school to a point. I mean, these people may be more 3D articulate, maybe more 3D intelligent, and have a higher 3D IQ than we do, but they don't understand that unconditional love. Their mind doesn't go past, they only see what's in front of them, and everything that happens within their life happens within their life, and that's it. They don't see anything outward other than that. They just see their happiness, what makes them happy, and they don't have the ability to see the whole big consciousness picture of it all, and they're not even thinking anywhere near that level. So it's really, now that kind of a lot of the emotion has gone out of it for me, it's kind of hard to blame them for that, because I really do realize that they just don't have that awakening yet, or they don't have that potential to see past it,
Absolutely. And I think it touches on something that we've spoken about before, Larry, I think in our show with Jane, is that, we have to remember that people are vibrating. We're all on different levels of our path, or of the path, or of a path. And we all vibrate at different frequencies. And in that show, we were talking about how when you vibrate at a different frequency, sometimes you can be like, as little kids, we mentioned it, where you feel invisible at times. And even now as adults, there are times when we feel invisible, and maybe it is that we're just vibrated to higher frequency. And I think you're absolutely right. That is what happens when you have, these kinds of relationships. Remember, we probably needed to have them to work through some of the issues that we had, to have the triggers of the soul lessons that we are needing to negotiate this lifetime. So that's why we attracted the relationships in the first place, and we probably had soul contracts with those souls along the way. But that, I think it still speaks to the recognition that, and Abraham talks about this a lot. I love Abraham, I find a lot of what the collective says, the Abraham collective says, to be very resonant and helpful, but that sometimes we just vibrating at literally at different frequencies, and then sometimes we may meet someone and we think, oh, this is it, and oh, you feel all the connectedness, and then suddenly it all goes pear-shaped, and you can't understand why, because there were all these synchronicities and everything seemed so lined up. But what Abe says is that sometimes you've already expanded beyond that person or that level of vibration in that relationship. And I think as star seeds, as light workers, we know that consciousness has shifted now, since the acceleration has happened post 2012 and then about, and so everything's just moving so quickly that we're going through things like boom, 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 there we go kind of thing, what's that Madonna song, quicker than a ray of light she's flying, and that's what it feels like.
Exactly. I should have used that song to open up the show. But yeah, and it also seems too that even though things are going quicker and quicker and quicker, it seems like though that each now moment is lasting longer, because whether you're doing a project by yourself, or whether you're talking with somebody in the groups, or whether you're doing whatever, it just seems like that those now moments we're more in and we're more consciously aware of, instead of worrying about and tripping on, well, what am I going to do next? And what after that am I going to do? Or, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to go have lunch, I'm going to go have dinner, I'm going to watch the game, I'm going to go to bed. And you're always never, in that 3D lifestyle, you're never living in the now moment. You're just continuously focused on what you're going to go to and do next. And I think that too, the time is just speeding up so fast that it's like, okay, well, a minute only takes about 45 seconds now in actual Earth time, it seems like. And actually, that is a fact. I heard a scientist discussing that a few years ago. But ever since 2012, it's just picked up and accelerated so quickly that it's just crazy. And I think that a lot of people, they just don't know how to handle it. I myself, for one, it's really been a struggle to keep my head above water. But I really feel for people that don't understand what's going on. I think that if more people don't start waking up, they're going to find themselves just really, really wondering what the fuck is going on. Because things are moving so quick, and it's just, it's like that. And it's really crazy to think about how quick things are going, and kind of how all these parallel realities are coming into one, and these timelines are all coming into one timeline, and we're awakening to the greatness we once were. And you know what, on a positive note, I'm even starting to find that some of these people that used to give me a bad time about talking about extraterrestrials and the Pleiadians, the aliens that I see, that word alien kind of, to me, it means to alienate, but I've gotten more used to using it, because You know, there's really nothing wrong with a word. It's just a word. But it just seems like that more people are slowly starting to awaken to think, well, maybe something is going on. And so, and then a lot of people in that next phase are getting past that level of waiting for somebody to come save them, like they've got their hands held to the sky, going, come, please, please save me. Well, you know, we are the ETs we've been waiting for. It's up to us as a collective to deal with these issues and bond more together with people of like mind, and the more people of like mind that awaken, and until that collective just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, until finally, you know, the majority of the planet is a collective of like-minded thought, no judgment, but yet all-knowing, you know, pure love, thinking from the heart center instead of your mind and that constant doubt, self-doubt, chatter mind mode, but more in that all-knowing heart. And it's just really great to see, but at the same time, it gets, you know, night in and night out. I know for me, it certainly gets lonely and it gets old, you know, after a while. And how nice it would be just to have a friend, just anybody, whether it was a partner, whether it was just a good friend, whatever the case may be, it would be nice just to have somebody like that in 3D from these groups that you can actually meet and talk to and give a hug to, you know? And ladies and gentlemen, of course, with Google, it always looks like we have a problem. It seems like every time that I get on and do a broadcast, I've got either somebody gets booted out of the room or the broadcast cuts off. But we'll just give it here a minute or two and see if Zureida comes back on, and we'll end the broadcast if she doesn't. But I'd like to take this opportunity to send a shout out to a few people. I'd like to send a shout out to my fellow admins in the Pleiadians group, the mothership group ran by Leah Shapiro, Alien Tribe. Much love, Leah, and good luck with all your successes and all the great light work that you're doing and that you spread. And I'd also like to give a thanks and a shout out to Jane Hermstad, Kathleen Boylan, Jason Wilson, and Sierra Morris, my other admins in the group. And there is Zureida back with us. Hey, I was just giving a shout out to some of the people that helped in the Pleiadians group as admins. So anyway, go ahead and finish your point.
No, cool. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there. I think that was Mercury retrograde messing with us.
Yeah, or the Cabal, either one. I like to blame the Cabal, but it could have been Mercury retrograde. That's true. That's a whole nother subject for another show, but that's really presented some strange energies the last week, I will say, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you were just talking about the different frequencies that we were vibrating on. Am I right?
Yes, exactly. The different frequencies that we're trying to tune into with each other, and then of course seems like we're vibing on a higher frequency than, you know, some of the past relationships we've had with people that just don't get it on that level because they're not at that vibrational frequency, which isn't a good or a bad thing. It just is, you know.
Absolutely, and there was one other point I just wanted to add to that, Larry, was that I think and this would probably have been through many of our childhoods and in our friendships and love relationships, so kind of all relationships really, that, there's the question of vibrating at different frequencies and being invisible sometimes to people, or they just don't get you. The other thing is, the other side of that is people do see and feel that you're vibrating at a higher frequency and you are embodying compassion and, unconditional love, and it freaks them out. Because the contrast that they see in themselves, or you mirror things in them, not to say that people are not mirroring for us and we don't have a lot to learn too, of course we do, but just if we look at this instance, often we bring up that mirror in them and they want to be more like that, but maybe they feel threatened or they feel scared, or we sometimes, even when we are more emotional and able to express sadness or grief in an open way that they aren't able to, that freaks them out because it speaks to those dark shadow parts in themselves that they don't want to be looking at, or that they manage to repress and put away. So often what happens is we get rejected on those bases as well, So, and that I know is, for a lot of people has happened from childhood, in family relationships, friendships, love relationships, and you get, quite viciously rejected, even within your own family context, because you then, you're too confronting for them, and they see that light in you, and they feel like you showing them up all the time, or something like that, and so then they reject you even more. you know.
Big
So
time.
yeah, and I think, just to kind of carry on with something you were saying about we as Pleiadian starseeds, or let's say just we as starseeds and light workers, we need to connect with each other so that we can feel the love, really, but also so
Yes.
that we can hold the vision and the faith in the vision of this higher vibrational, existence becoming a reality in this dimension, you know, so that we are able to manifest those kinds of relationships and interactions in our third dimensional lives, in the relationships around us. And I think that's quite an important part of our mission.
Yeah, I agree. And I wanted to touch on one thing while we're on it too. It's like, okay, for years and years and years, I spent, and I'm sure a lot of starseeds can relate to this, I spent wondering what was wrong with me. Is it me? What is it? Why are they so combative? Why do they not like my confrontational style when I've got an opinion, but yet they have no problem being confrontational over the smallest of a thing? And I've gone to realize that it isn't that I'm a low down piece of garbage. It's just that they can't handle that higher vibration, and they don't know how to take us. And it's something that they can't explain. Not only can they not explain it, but they can't even fathom what it is that they are feeling. So it's really a tough situation to be in, but it kind of does add some solace to know that it's not really necessarily us. I mean, I'm not saying it's them either, but at the same time, it's our high vibration, and whether that's in a relationship or whether that's with family members that maybe you're having a debate with, or you're trying to get them to see from your point of view, especially when you're younger and growing up. I know that from the time I was 5 years old, I was debating politics with my grandparents or parents or whatnot, and I felt like on one hand, okay, I'm just a kid, what do I know? But on the other hand, I knew my truth. And it seems like, they get backed into a corner and they have no argument for it. So they just say, oh, you're just a kid, what do you know? But you realize you're getting to them at that point with truth, and this truth that we were obviously incarnated here with. And we know what time it is, per se. I mean, not that anybody really knows what time it is or anybody really cares, ha ha ha. But it just seems to me like they don't understand how to vibe at that higher level. And I even had somebody tell me in one of the groups one time, they were upset with, I posted just something about Nikola Tesla and that was it, but they got mad because they couldn't handle my high vibration, and they privately told me this, that it was that high vibration they couldn't deal with at the time. And I appreciated that honesty. At the same time, I was a little hurt by it, but it made me think about these other relationships when I'd actually been in a relationship with somebody, or situations I've dealt with with my own family, where they just, their mind wasn't open to believing it, or their consciousness couldn't quite grasp it. But yeah, it certainly is an interesting, strange paradox. And then you get to the point where, okay, you get over that, and all you can do is send people like that love from afar, and try not to let their mood or their personality drag you down too far, which isn't easy to do, because it's real easy, as emotional as us starseeds are, to get caught in that trap.
Mm. And I think, as you're talking about emotional stuff, I was just kind of getting or feeling that, we are used to using and kind of using our emotions as a guidance system, and to being, when you are empathic, I think you are necessarily emotional and have quite a wide range of emotional literacy and language, and spectrum. And we may not be as consciously aware of it because we were born into this third dimensional plane where emotions are seen as something either evil, or especially the so-called bad emotions, so we're always trying, being taught and that you shouldn't be emotional and you shouldn't be sensitive, and you should have so-called bad emotions, not even sadness, not even grieving and sadness when somebody dies. You shouldn't have an excess of anything. So I think we came with this consciousness of of higher emotional literacy, let's put it that way. And then we get born into this environment which is over emphasizing the rational, and the so-called scientific, and trying to almost cut off the head from the rest of the body, only be these disembodied minds kind of thing, and remove the heart, to remove the emotional emotionality and even the body, for a big part for many people on a third dimensional plane. So I think it's even more difficult for us as starseeds coming in, because we have a sense of knowing that emotionality is part of the point of being human, but also we have that higher literacy and understanding. And then to boot, we are very sensitive, so we feel it even more intensely than others might. We experience it so devastatingly. And I mean, I think that's, again, then we tap into the depression that comes, the anxiety that comes when you then feel so misunderstood, and rejected and isolated, from connecting with others, because you get attacked in that way, as you were saying, Larry, and it's a very confusing and difficult space to be in, because you are vibrating at that higher frequency, having that higher consciousness, even if you are unconscious of it as a human. That now we are more conscious, so we're able to give voice to it. We're able to express what it's about and see it more clearly. But when we were growing up, or when we were in those relationships, we couldn't. We just felt confused, and we felt like we were to blame. And I think this was a point that I wanted to make quite strongly, is I think when you are a more evolved soul, when you are, a starseed, we've learned the lesson of taking responsibility for our actions, for our behavior, for our emotions, for our thoughts. We have learned that. We have lived in dimensions where we do that. And so and I think this comes, into the third dimension, where when we are in relationships, we are then taking responsibility. So we often feel like we're wrong all the time, because we're so busy taking responsibility for everything. We end up taking responsibility for the other person as well, because on top of it, we're the empaths. So now we're taking on their emotions. Now they don't want to experience their emotions, so they're projecting the hell of them into us. Now we're feeling their emotions, our emotions. We're taking responsibility for everybody's emotions. And I mean, it's no wonder there aren't higher suicide rates among starseeds, because it's very difficult
exactly.
and confusing. Yeah, it's very difficult.
It really
and confusing.
is.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
confusing. And you realize that, okay, we get emotional about things like that, and we get really sad, and they don't expect us to be able to grieve. They don't expect us, we'll hurry up and grieve and get over it. But any little thing that's gone wrong in their life or their day, boy, it's sure okay for them to bitch and complain and yell and scream and piss and moan over shit that wouldn't even bother or faze us. But like the old saying goes, I guess, you talked about being a higher evolved soul. To much is given, much is expected. And it's a lesson in humility for us, too. And it's a lesson in humbleness to deal with that situation. But yeah, you just feel like, okay, well, what the fuck's wrong with me? What's my problem? What's my issue? And you take on their energies when they're pissed off. And sometimes you find that they get pissed off because you're hurt and in a bad mood, whether they caused it or not. If you're hurt in a bad mood, they get mad because you don't get over it quick enough. So you're dealing with your own personal shit, and then you're dealing with their bullshit on top of it, when they really have no reason to get upset. It's really... if I let myself go down that road too much, I get real passive aggressive about it. And that's another thing. I think that when we get upset and we get really, really hurt and emotional as Pleiadians and starseeds, one of our biggest tendencies, besides, crying a lot and showing emotion and hurt, is that we become passive aggressive,
Mm-hmm. Yes, because we're not good at being aggressive. And, it's just thinking, it's interesting, because I wonder how many starseeds in their experiences have had moments of being in relationships that are considered, in third dimensional terms, codependent. And I think a lot of empaths do, so we do. And it's about learning to have, boundaries, learning that we're just at different levels of consciousness, and to no longer need to kind of play out those dynamics anymore. But I'm quite sure many of us, I know I have, been in those dynamics where you end up being bullied, and enabling the so-called, the other person in the dynamic, by, kind of perpetuating the dynamic, and then, being passive-aggressive and that kind of thing.
Yeah, you speak of codependency, and yeah, I've been in a lot of relationships like that. Well, not a lot, but a few, the few that I've been in. But it seems to me like also, too, they think, if they know that word codependency, they think that they're the ones who are being codependent by having to put up with our emotions and our, they don't think we're dealing in reality, and they think that we're just crazy, or we're too sensitive and things like that. But in reality, we're the ones putting up with we're the ones being codependent by putting that on our shoulders and taking in all their negative energy and all their dark energy, sucking energy out of us, if that's a phrase to use. But it sure does seem that way. And then it just seems like it's never good enough. You can apologize and apologize and apologize when most of the time it wasn't even something you need to apologize for, but it's never good enough for them. They got to keep harping on it. They have to keep hammering the point home and just keep going on and on about it, even if they're in a bad mood. But then you'll hear these undertones in their speech that, are like, you can definitely tell that it's a slam on you. And it's like, my God, get a grip. But at the end of the day, too, it's about not putting yourself in that position. And I think for me, I had to go through a few terrible situations like that to understand it and to realize that it's not me, it's not them, it's just a situation. We're coming at it both on a different vibrational frequency wavelength. And definitely most of the partners that we have all chosen as starseeds at one point or another, unless you're really, really lucky and have found that one, and then even those people have probably paid their dues first, or they just happen to be that one in a quintillion lucky fluke. But yeah, I just think that it really helped me to understand a lot of things. And and has made me a stronger person. But at the same time, here we are right back at square one again, just kind of lonely and alone, and the groups help. But yeah, now I think it's a good time to start manifesting, and I think it will. Everything happens for a reason. I don't know exactly what the answer is to make it happen, but just by staying connected as much as we can with each other and picking up on each other's idiosyncrasies and wavelengths and things like that, I think that this will help tremendously. And yeah, it's really a good subject to talk about and get people to realize that they're not alone out there. And, there's a big network now of us here on Facebook and all these like-minded groups. I know that's why I created all the regional Pleiadian groups, to give people a chance to, and it doesn't matter what region of the world or galaxy you're from. These regional groups are basically set up to basically give people some identity and to talk amongst themselves in a smaller setting if they want to. If they want to share something or share something with somebody of like mind, they can. Whereas doing it in the, in the big group, the mothership group, there's so many posts and the flow is just going so quick that it's kind of hard to do that. And this kind of gives a little bit more of an intimate setting. But I'm hoping that things like that and other ideas that people come up with, like doing their own show, doing their own page, doing their own group, I'm hoping that that'll be the next phase into accelerating this thing a little bit more and bringing us together, and maybe some of us together on a 3D level,
Absolutely. No, I'm completely agree with you. And I think the regional groups are great for, allowing people to kind of connect in that smaller way for those that maybe feel a bit intimidated in the bigger groups, but also because we theoretically, hopefully will geographically be a little bit closer to each other. I think that will help tremendously. But I just wanted to pick up on something else that you were saying earlier. I think when it comes to those so-called codependent or challenging relationships, and look, we obviously had soul lessons that we needed to learn from each other, absolutely. But I think, to pick up on a point that we made earlier, that I think for all of us, when we've been in those kinds of dynamics and when we keep attracting those kinds of relationships in our lives, then it is a sign from the universe, it is a sign that we need to be looking towards ourselves again, and working a little bit more on that relationship with yourself. So I'm not in any way, saying it in a blaming way. Oh, well, if you're hard on yourself, you're going to attract somebody who's hard on you. Yes, you do up to a point. Sure, we recognize that. But, you can also get into a funk about that, because then you're just going to blame yourself and then it defeats the purpose and you get nowhere. So, in a loving way, to come back to saying, okay, I got to find a way to just like myself, damn it. I got to find a way to build that sense of self, and to the point where I'm kind of looking in the mirror and being able to go, God, I'm gorgeous, and
God, I'm saying that. Yeah, I'm gorgeous.
But
people like me.
Yeah, but we got to do that, because as soon as we start doing that, we start breaking the codependent patterns. And I can see it in myself. I've as well have been through a number of those kinds of dynamics in my life through love relationships and friendships. And so I have been making quite a strong and concerted effort to work on my relationship with myself. And the amazing thing is that I can see the changes happening in my outer environment now. That that I've been finding people in the groups that that are not like that I'm not having those dynamics with anymore. They're far more open and loving and unconditional, and so it works. I can promise you it works. It's just about committing to the process and finding, and it's baby steps, because to say to somebody, well, you got to love yourself, that feels like impossible. It's too high flying a disc for those who speak Abraham. You got to find just a little bit of relief, and that might be just going, well, I'm just going to be nice to myself and have that, cup of tea or piece of chocolate or something, and just kind of feel a little bit of relief in relation to myself. And then you slowly, incrementally build that up, and so I think it's about, coming back to looking at that relationship with self is always something that we're going to have to be working on, because it's the primary one in terms of being able to heal stuff in yourself and then with those around you. But I think we have the opportunity to do it in such an amazing forum with fellow starseeds, through all the interactions that we have available to us now that have just started opening up hugely. Larry, you were saying, when did the Mothership Pleiadian group start? When was it created by Leah?
Well, actually, I don't believe Leah created. I believe it was another gentleman by the name of Lewis that helped create it, but she took it over, I believe, sometime at the beginning of 2013, and there was only 2,000 members in it. Now, when I joined the group at first in the beginning of December, there was 6,000 people in the group, and then when I took over as one of the admins in early January, they had just hit 10,000, or were getting ready to hit 10,000. Now they're at about 25,005 in the group. And I know my personal the Fringe Thinkers has grown from, 29 people at the time to over 10,000 now, and to the thanks of a lot of people helping out and attracting people to the group. But I was just going to say, too, on a side note, you female starseeds and your chocolate, dang. No, but a little piece of heaven for sure. I can understand that at times, but yeah, exactly. And it's just about loving yourself, and it's a real fine line between loving yourself, and really being in love with yourself and transmuting that love and transmitting that love to others around you, versus having that ego and just being like, yeah, I'm hot shit or whatever like that. Because people that are in that kind of a mode, they're really not that happy, and they really don't love themselves at all. So it's kind of a yin and a yang with that, and it's really hard, I think, on one hand, to give ourselves permission to love ourselves, because we're so worried that we're going to slip into that ego trip, and then on another hand, we've just been beat down so much too mentally that it's hard as well. But really, it just takes, looking at yourself in the mirror once in a while and going, do I like myself? What changes do I need to make about myself to make me like myself and actually fall in love with myself? Because if you truly fall in love with yourself in a non-judgmental, non-ego way, you can fall in love with the whole world, and that will definitely, your light will shine a lot brighter when you do that. That's just my 2 cents on it, but it seems logical.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you, Larry. But I just also wanted to say that, I think when you were talking about, what was the point you just made before that one? Just remind me. You were saying about, the ego thing. I got it. Sorry, I had too many thoughts in my head at one moment.
Me too. I hear you. It's a Pleiadian thing. Don't worry.
With the ego thing, I think it is challenging. We come to the third dimension, and usually people who love themselves are egotistical assholes, and usually are power hungry or whatever, all the things that go with it in the third dimension. And so we come in and we like, I don't want to be like those people, and I don't want to be conceited, and I don't want to be selfish, and I don't want to be full of myself. And absolutely we don't want to be like that. But I think for a lot of, and this is what I'm feeling and kind of getting, is that for those of us that are starseeds, empaths, highly sensitives, we lump those all kind of together. But for those of we almost are our default setting is to not harm others. Our default setting is to take responsibility for ourselves. So we seldom come across as arrogant schmucks, you know. And there's
Right.
absolutely what you're saying is that the recognition that self-love and self-awareness and self-care is not about being a selfish, arrogant schmuck. It's about developing a fine relationship with yourself in a healthy way. And I think maybe as starseeds, and I'm seeing this quite a lot in others that I speak to, is that we so now overcompensate because we don't want to be the arrogant, conceited egotists, that we then kind of put ourselves down more, and we hate ourselves more, and because then we think somehow we compensate because we mustn't think too much of ourselves. But part of our mission is to come here and step into our truth and step into our light, and to be leaders in our communities and to be leaders of the light, whether it be just in your communications with people or in the work that you do, you know. And I can feel I'm channeling this now. So it's important for us to recognize that we need to develop that relationship with ourselves so that we can step into our truth, so that we can step into the center of our power in healthy, loving ways. We are higher beings. We are not going to abuse other people. We are not going to be arrogant, power-hungry, power-grabbing people. We are here to bring light to this planet and to lead it. We are on the leading edge, you know. So it's really important for us to see that distinction and make it a less fine line, you know, to see it as a clear separation, that we are not that. And by stepping into your power and finding love for yourself and being able to say, hey, I'm a powerful healer, I'm a powerful light worker, I'm a deeply compassionate human being, to step into that is not arrogant. I mean, you can hear when I say it, I'm not sounding arrogant, I'm sounding more centered
No,
when I
not at
say it.
all. Not at all.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
just to say, Larry, I think it's amazing, how quickly this awakening is happening among starseeds, because you can see it in like you say, the growing numbers of the group. And clearly this year, I mean, I've had the strongest part of my awakening this year, and it's just been thick and fast, but also, like, I can see one of your gifts is that bringing of people, of gathering people and finding us, and bringing us together. And something which we shouldn't forget is that when we start having these conversations with each other, we start opening up the awareness. So we start remembering more memories start coming, more awareness starts coming, more visions, or whatever it is that your gifts are aligned to, so, and that will make a big difference as well, because we'll start feeling our connectedness with home, which will help ameliorate some of the loneliness as well, to come back to loneliness.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with you 100%, and it sure has taken off since the beginning of the year. I know I started my awakening, well, so to speak. I hate using catchphrases, but about 3 years ago this last March, and it's been quite a journey, but it's moved so rapidly, and I think now it's just moving quicker and quicker and quicker, to the point where it's just, every day is a new day, and every day is just, it goes by like, I mean, sometimes I even forget what day of the week it is. It'll be Wednesday, and I'll think it's Saturday. It just goes by so quick, or it'll be Saturday, and I think it should still be like Wednesday. And I agree with you 100% on that. And yeah, I think it's just really important. And that's kind of been my main mission, is just to bring people together, hook various souls up with various people, hook them up with certain groups, and just kind of mix everybody together and see who vibes with who, and go from there. And eventually everybody start vibing with everybody on that same frequency wavelength. And so that was kind of my idea behind creating all these groups, and getting all these people together to talk, because without them I'm nothing, basically, and we all need each other. And I think that you hit on another good point, is that the more and more we start conversing with each other, right, and bounce ideas off each other, even though most of our stories are 80 to 100% similar, it starts opening those portals and those doorways in our mind for remembering things. And then we each have those aha moments more and more, where it's like, oh yeah, that's right, or yeah, I remember that, or boy, that really resonates with me in my stomach, and yeah, I think I've been here before, whether it was in another lifetime or in another parallel reality. It's like, it really just, something's trying to talk to you through your multidimensional self when you do that,
Absolutely. And there's amazing sense of solace and comfort and joy in feeling that, again, because I think, like, we felt so separated for so long, we felt so alone and so alien in our environments for so long, that when those start awakening in us, it helps us to connect with the consciousness of connection as opposed to separation.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean that's one of the main saving graces I've had, is definitely it feels that way. And the solace, like you said, of coming together and just talking these things through. It's just really exciting. And it's really exciting when you talk to somebody who may not be as far along in that awakening process as you are, and they have that aha moment and are like, yeah, wow, I get that, or yeah, that really resonates with me, and really. And I think that that helps. You know, a lot of us will come online and come into the groups after we've had a shitty day, or we're going through some ascension symptoms, or whatever the case may be, an argument with whoever, a family member, a partner, whatever it is. And I think that more and more so now, that just getting on for, even if it's just a little bit of it at a time, I was going to say, I think it really helps a lot. I mean, it certainly does help me to, you know, get over the bad day I might have had, or to help somebody else who's had a bad day, because I can relate. And, you know, you hear that cliche brought up too a lot in society. Well, I can really relate to you, brother, or I can relate to you, sister. But, you know, you really get the feeling when you're told that in these groups by people that you can. And I actually feel comfortable telling people that for the first time in my life, that I can relate to what you're going through, instead of thinking that I'm just sounding some cliche out that I heard somewhere, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's an amazing feeling when you feel like somebody gets you. Somebody really, really gets you. You know, it's an incredibly powerful experience. And yeah, you know, just to add to what you're saying, that's part of my life mission and soul purpose, is to help that awakening in others. You know, and so when I see it happen, it's part of why I do the work that I do. I just so love it. It lifts my heart and soul so much, you know, that I think it's so that's why I think we need to, maybe the way to focus the groups now, almost to, now that they're growing, now that they've been created, is almost to start looking at how we bring in more focus in terms of more consciously connecting as community. You know, not just saying, oh, it's just a little Facebook group, kind of. It's, no, this is where you know, so whether it be that we start, you know, kind of discussing more concepts together in the groups, you know, having, you know, weeks of discussing various kind of topics, you know, like where everybody's from, which origins they come from, and, you know, that kind of thing, or whatever, you know, that's, you can come up with those things. You're good at that. But
Yes,
we can actually like have these conversations, because like even I was noticing when we have some of these bigger group conversations on Facebook groups, you know, where you can actually start having really great conversations with people, you know, and really start, oh, okay, yeah, no, I understand that, or could you explain that to me, or, and then we start getting an idea of what kinds of things people are wanting to hear more of in the radio shows, you know, so we can speak to a larger audience about some of those things. And there's so many talented, you know, people in these groups, you know, the admins and beyond. There's so much learning to share, there's so much knowledge, so we create a much stronger sense of sangha, or community. And that is, I mean, that's why the Buddhists talk about that, is it gives you so much comfort to really connect with your community and to connect with it consciously on a regular basis. So I would just say to people listening, like, make it a much more conscious effort, and find those that you connect to, more friend people that you connect with a little bit more, you know, and have conversations, really connect with each other in a real way. Because even if we might not be able to meet each other, by having these voice conversations, or, you know, online chats with one or two other individuals, it really brings it more into the reality. It brings it more into this dimension, and it is a lot more comforting and soothing, you know, to help ease some of that loneliness and separation.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you 100% on that. And I think that also, too, that, you know, now that I've created all these groups and have admins set in place, I don't plan to create any more for a long, long time now. And it's such a relieving feeling. I think that that's kind of what you're talking about, the next phase that we are in right now. We're in that next phase, and people, I would just encourage people to really look at the groups that they're in and that they resonate with as a community. You know, you're still interacting with these people. Yes, it may not be on a 3D level, but it's more on a cosmic level, actually, even though, yes, it's through Facebook, Fakebook, you know, whatever you want to call it. It's more directly involved to talk to somebody like that than somebody that you may not vibe with in 3D. And I think that people really need to take it upon themselves, and I would encourage people to look at that as a community, like a family, because that's what I feel is family when I'm in these groups and when I'm talking with people. And if I'm resonating with a certain group at a certain time, I really feel like I'm talking to family. And then some of these subjects will get brought up, like you said, in the bigger groups, and a subject will get brought up and you never know where it's going to take you. I mean, I've seen, you know, the strangest posts lead into a 200, 300 comment conversation, you know, that keeps going for days. And if we could centralize that a little bit more, you know, which is something I'm going to be doing some brainstorming on next, is coming up with topics that can be posted and maybe pinned to some of the regional groups that maybe apply to that region, or really we don't need to get into that border thing, but you know, that really resonate with starseeds in general, and that people can take the conversation wherever they want to go as long as it's in a loving and mutual respectful manner.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that'd be a really wonderful idea. And I think you've made a lovely point there about it being family. It's about finding your soul family, your star family, you know, those of us that are incarnated here, you know, wherever we may be across the globe. And it was linking to something else that I wanted to mention, is that, you know, until we maybe are able to meet our partners or twin flames or whatever we want to call them, it's helpful, I think, to find some of your soul's siblings, you know, those that represent the divine masculine and feminine, and that you can allow to heal a lot of the challenges that you might have inside of yourself in relation to relationships, you know. So to start kind of finding those that you resonate with even more, and feel that you have those kind of sibling connections with, so that you can, you know, start, because it's easier in a sibling relationship to have that unconditional love and unconditional support and get to know each other as siblings, you know, and you don't have to worry then about the dynamic of the love relationship kind of thing, you know. And I've been finding that to be really healing and transformative, because it's helping me to heal my relationship for myself with the masculine, and I'm sure for others such as yourself with the feminine, you know. And then you've made family, so you know, whether or not you meet someone becomes less of a focus, because you're feeling more fulfilled, because you're having real good connections with people. And I just, you know, I know it would be lovely for us to meet in the third dimension, but let's remember that not that long ago we didn't even have Facebook, we didn't even have Skype, you know. It's what, you know, if we were sitting in the 90s, none of this would be happening, really, necessarily. We'd have maybe a little bit, but nothing like what we have now. So already we've learning through our intention, through global intention and all of that, we've begun to manifest ways that we can be in constant daily contact with each other, even if it is on phone and online and on Facebook, you know. So we've just got to kind of hold the faith and keep on continuing to manifest, being able to interact with each other even more and more.
Yeah, no, I agree with you definitely. And you were speaking about the 1990s. Yeah, I mean, the internet wasn't even available here where I live until 1995, and that's really when it got started. And at that point, even, it was dial-up, not 56K, 28K modem. They would charge you by the hour. So, and I graduated from high school in 1994. We had nothing of, there was not even a fathom of a thought of anything like that when I was growing up. We didn't even have call waiting until, well, I was the first one on my block to have call waiting, you know, where another call could beep in on your home phone and you could answer it. And then my son, it's funny, he never heard a busy signal till he was 12 years old, trying to call a radio station. He's like, Dad, come here and listen to this. There's some weird noise. And I said, what? And he handed me the phone, and it was a goddamn busy signal. And I'm like, oh my God. And nor has he ever used a rotary phone. But the point being is that it's just happened so quickly. And it's like, okay, he plays video games online, right, with kids all over the world. But before, I don't know, before a few years ago, if you wanted to play video games with somebody, they had to be at your house.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, they wasn't in Russia, the USA, the UK, Brazil, wherever the hell the case may be, Canada. You had to have them at your house to play a video game. And, you know, the phone, calling long distance, of course, in those days was really expensive, much less calling international to talk to somebody. And even if you could do that, how in the hell were you going to meet any of these people to begin with? I mean, it's done so much to bridge that gap. I think that we take it for granted a lot of the time too, just how much it has bridged the gap. And I certainly, for one, am very grateful for Facebook. As much as I joke about it, and as, yeah, there's some technical things with it that could be given some attention to it, but oh well, you know, those things will come with time. And I think as far as, you know, chatting with each other on text, I think more mediums are opening up like this, where at least we can talk and we can hear each other's voices and see each other's faces if we want to. And I think the next phase is that's going to become extremely prevalent with everything we do and somehow every encounter we have in the groups. Instead of just a chat, whatever, by text, it'll be voice, it'll be visual, it'll be whatever, and then we'll go from there to the point of God knows what's coming down the road of technology where we can be even closer with each other. So I think that we do take for granted the fact that before the 90s, we didn't have any of these things available at all, and really even till the 2000s, not with any relevance, you know.
Absolutely. And the thing is, we always forget, we get so good at being all technological and scientific, we forget the magical aspect of it. You know, like there's, you know, here we are communicating in the ether. Here we are doing it. You know, hello, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So when we should joke less about when we astral travel, because I think it is becoming more real. So yeah.
No, really it is. I agree with you 100%. And I think personally, I mean, I think that says it all right there. And yeah, I think it's been a really great show. And I'd like to actually thank you for coming on, Zureida, and talking with me. And did you have any other quick points you wanted to hit on before we go ahead and wrap it up for today?
I'm just checking my notes here because I did make some, and I think we pretty much covered everything. There was just, I think, maybe one little point that feels like I should mention. I was reading some stuff up on the Twin Flames from the Twin Flame group, and this might be helpful for those that are listening, that you know, they were saying, like, some of us, we don't always incarnate together, because the one twin may still be on a ship somewhere or home, and so that could be part of why we have the disconnection, but that is also possible to start bringing it into this dimension. So it felt like I should share that. You know, that could be why we're not always all incarnated together. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to, you know, see each other or connect with each other. And also that our twins, if they are there or whatever, you know, when we connect with them in meditation and that, they're more readily available to us as well. So it felt important for me to just mention that as well.
No, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because Jane was mentioning something on another show about that too. It's that there is that disappointment, because it's quite possible that your twin flame you will not meet in this lifetime per se, and it's quite possible they're still in another dimension, or they're up on the ship still, or wherever it may be back home in the Pleiades or whatever star system you come from. You know, that's a very good point. But that doesn't mean that you won't see them. I mean, anything you could ever imagine is true, and I totally believe that some wild card is going to come out of nowhere that we're not expecting, that we're not thinking about, that we can't even fathom yet, and bridge that gap and make that veil go away between everything. And I think that ties into, of course, all the timelines running together too. So, you know, just keep your head up, everybody, and don't be surprised when a wild card shows up in your life and everything gets better, or not everything, but you know what I mean, a big giant step towards making everything better happens.
Absolutely. And I think the important thing, and maybe the last message that I'd like to go out on, is just that we kind of have to join together and give each other the kind of comfort and support that we need in order to hold the faith that is coming, you know, and to hold it so clearly in our vision that it's impossible for it not to manifest in our lifetimes, and that we will be able to have all that seems that we are able to imagine, you know, to become real and to connect with.
Yeah, and I hope people don't hear this and go, well, when is it coming? Can you give me a date? Can you give me a time frame? No, I can't give you a date or a time frame, because time doesn't exist in that realm. It could be, I couldn't even dream to tell you, but it will happen eventually. And I think that the more, it's going to happen in phases. Everybody gets hung up in wanting some big bang, boom event to happen right away, and it's not going to happen. It's a series of smaller things like that, a series of aha moments and oh yeah and great things like that, and that slowly builds us up into manifesting these things to happen. So yeah, I agree with that, and I just think it's been really great to talk with you about this. And of course, I know we've had a lot of private talks about this, and I certainly appreciate all your loving energy that you share. And it's just been really wonderful. And Zureida, before we wrap it up, would you like to tell everybody, and I make everybody do this at the end of the show, where we could find you on Facebook? Where can somebody find the great Zureida Garda Pleiadian channel or goddess if they so desire on Facebook or on me in particular?
Well, I'm on all the groups because I'm an admin, so you can find me on
Yes.
all the groups.
Anything Pleiadian or related, yeah.
You will find me. Yes, I'm also admin of the Pleiadian South African group, so you can find me over there. I'm on the main group. I'm on the Twin Flame group. I do have my own page called Truth Seer, which you can find as well, which I will be, kind of looking at again now and bringing alive again because it's been a bit dormant. But you can find me through any of those, and then you can just pop me a friend request or chat with me on one of those groups. That would be lovely. You're most welcome to.
You can see the truth through the truth seer. Yes, see the truth through the truth seer, Zureida Garda. And of course, everybody, yours truly, Rocken Larry Locken. You can find me in the main Pleiadians group as one of the admins. You can also find me on my own personal group, Fringe Thinkers. Just made 10,000 members today. Yay!
Yay!
But you can also find me on one of my many pages. You can find me on the Pleiadian Light Grid page, Pleiadian Woodstock, Pleiadian Disco 70s Culture, as well as a Facebook page called Pleiadian Express Productions, which ties into the Google and YouTube channel that I have called Pleiadian Express Productions. You can also find me in one of the, well, there's too many to name, but one of the 23 to 25 Pleiadian regional groups that we have all over the world now. And also a couple of new groups that I just created, Pleiadian Reiki Masters, Beginners, and Healers. That's another one, as well as the one that Zureida just mentioned, Pleiadian Twin Flame Souls United. So you can find me. You can find my bald head and the rainbow glowing off of me on just about everywhere in any related group like that. So I wanted to send out much love to our star brothers and sisters out there. We love you and we're with you, and we deeply, deeply care about you, and we're all in this together. And I just wanted to say many blessings, peace, love, light, and namaste. And Zureida Garda, my girl, thank you for coming on, and that's a wrap for today. Thank you, goodbye, God bless, namaste, amen, and all that good shit. Peace.